Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Turner, CEO of Entanglement. We're a next-gen computing and AI company. We're here to talk about, with Jacques Torres, Baker. Baker is something we're working on that's AI agent to teach you. It's very, very intuitive, and it'll teach you how to cook. And for those of you who, we teased this out in early December at Tech Basel with a really fun, humorous way of showing how Jacques would interact with his digital twin. It was very funny and entertaining. And today we're going to show you a little bit more how it's progressing and how we're using all these different components of technology to create this and bring it to life, which is very, very exciting. And really quick, Entanglement started as a quantum computing company in 2017 with the goal of fusing AI and quantum together. And today we're next-gen computing and AI. We're doing industry first. We've got an incredible team. Feel free to visit our booth here where we're exhibiting. And yesterday we announced 3 big announcements, and we're demonstrating 3 of our products, our new products, here today. So we're very excited to show you Baker, and we're going to show you a little bit of the making of, but really talk about the genesis of this and talk with Jacques about, you know, why is this important, and really introduce you to Jacques and our collaboration and how we're doing this. And Jacques, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you, Jason. Before we start, Jason, would you take a picture of the audience? I need to text my wife how important I am to speak in front of so many people. Thank you, that's great. So I am Jacques Torres from Jacques Torres Chocolates. My company is 25 years old this year in New York. And I do what I do for over 50 years. I cannot believe it. It's not been that long. So yes, I do that for a long time. I wear the color of my country and also America, my 2 countries, because I won a competition called MOF, or Best Craftsman in Your Profession, in 1986. I know it's a while ago, but I still can wear my color. We came up with this idea of avatar, and yes. You want to talk a little bit more about it, or
yes. When we first started, we were thinking of, could we bring robots to make chocolate?
Yes.
And really, very, very another complex problem. And then what we really decided to come up with is, could we train AI, create an agent that was Jacques? Who wouldn't want to cook with Jacques? And could we bring that to everybody's kitchen? How could we do that? What were the technologies involved with that? And it became much more challenging than we thought to do. And we've made some incredible progress with this. And a lot of people ask us why. Like, why is Entanglement doing this? Because you do all this really deep tech. You're solving big problems in cybersecurity with AI optimization, all these other things. And this is a great example of how agentic AI can really intuitively, we're humanizing intelligence with this application. And I think that's one of the things that we're demonstrating here that's very, very powerful and important. And it's a big undertaking. So some of the first recipes we worked on, Jacques, do you want to talk about the first recipe?
Yes. First, I would like to put that in perspective. And a couple of weekends ago, I was in a friend home in Long Island, and we had a couple drinks, and he showed me a piece of meat that was defrosting, and he asked me, he said, Jacques, what can we do with that? And I realized that's a piece of meat that we cannot grill, that's going to cook for a few hours. So actually I think about avatar. So what I did, I pick up my phone, take a picture of the label, and call Sota. Sota was the chef at Le Cirque when I was working there. He's a very, very great chef. So I text him the picture, I call him, and I ask him, I say, Sota, what should we do with this meat? And he said, this is a meat that's going to cook for between 2 and 3 hours, and you should do a bœuf bourguignon, which is a fancy name for a stew. So I said, okay, let's. Can you stay on the phone a little bit with me? And I just want to see the interaction. I know how to cook that, but I want to see the interaction. So he told me to saute the meat, to cut some carrots, onion, celery, and put some white wine and make a bœuf bourguignon. So I did that, and he was on the screen. So a little bit like an avatar. He was looking at me walking and tell me things. And then when I put it in the oven, so of course he tell me the temperature, the time, 325, 2.5 hours, and I tell Sota, I say, Sota, I'll call you back in a little bit when in a couple hours when I think it's done, because I want to see how he's going to assess the doneness of a dish. You know, usually you have to be in front of it to decide. So I call him 2.5 hours later. The dish is out of the oven. And I ask him, I say, okay, what do you think? He said, it's fine. And I ask him, if you think it's ready? So what he did, he said, okay, take a paring knife and poke a piece of meat and tell me how much resistance you get. So I did, I poke it, and I tell him, I say, look, it's not much resistance. So his answer was, it's cooked, it's ready. Now, take one piece out, a little bit of sauce, cut it in half, eat it, and tell me about salt and pepper and the feeling. So I taste it. I tell him, okay, I think we miss a little bit of seasoning. He said, okay, go ahead, season again. So I season again. Okay, what do you think now? I say, now it tastes good. He said, okay, chisel a little bit of parsley on top, put it on the final dish. You're done. So that reassures me that we can do that with an avatar. An avatar will be able to drive the person exactly the same way. And then thinking about that later, I realized that I have access to most of the chefs in these countries. I can talk to them. A lot of them are my friends. So I have access to all kind of cooking. But what do I really miss as dishes? And then I realized my mom cooking. My mom cooking is something that I will pay anything.
That's right.
To have that one more time. My mom is gone. So, and then your mom, your grandma, your dad, whoever, if the technology can bring them back, at least for something like that, and you can interact with them, I mean, that would be wonderful. I ask my mother-in-law, I say, look, she's Persian, so she do all those wonderful dishes. And I before we talk about Avatar, I ask her, I say, would you put a little booklet of recipe for Hasti, my wife, and Johnny, her son? And I say, can you do that? Can you write down your recipes and a little text on how to arrive to the result that because only you will cook them that way. Only you will use certain spices, certain time, certain techniques. And then you give that to your children, and they will be able to have your dish again, because I would love to have that for my mom. But imagine now if you can put your mom, your grandma, anyone into a screen and interact with that person to do the dish that you miss the most, the dish that remind you your childhood. I think that will be something really wonderful.
It would also require them to give up that secret thing that they never tell us about.
So I think the technology is wonderful. The sky is the limit, and we can cook with anyone. We can get direction. We can really, dive pretty deep into that and make something maybe wonderful with this technology.
Well, that's wonderful. And why bread?
Bread is something simple. Bread has very few ingredients, and the whole world is making bread, but they're all different. From the pita bread to the flat bread to the baguette to the sour bread to, I don't know, so many different bread. And you'll always have, very few ingredients. Flour, water, salt, yeast, and sometimes no even yeast. So with those few ingredients, you can make so many different breads, and you can make so many mistakes. Simple or simpler will be a recipe. More mistake you can make to bring it to the final result that you want. So that's why having an avatar making bread with you and correcting you along the way, you can judge actually an avatar. More complicated is a recipe, more you can hide behind flavor or behind techniques. Bread, you can hide behind nothing. You put it in the oven, it's going to come out good or bad. That's it. So bread is actually not it's a sample recipe, but it's pretty complicated to make. So I want to talk about that recipe.
That's wonderful. And I know as we've been working together, we've been going through the common mistakes. Like, what do we have to train systems to look for? And that's really, every chef has different things, right? Like, to look for. And for bread, like, what are the most common mistakes people will make?
So what I realize is with this technology is that the avatar can read labels. And this is one of the most important things. What ingredients are you using? And for bread, if you use a flour doesn't have enough protein or enough gluten to hold the gas that's going to develop into that bread, the recipe not going to work. So that's one of the things that's very important. What flour are you going to use? Temperature of the water. If the water is too warm, then you're going to have fermentation too fast, or you're going to kill the fermentation. So when you take the temperature of your water, the avatar will look at the temperature of that water and tell you exactly, it's too hot, it's too cold, or what's the range. Quantity, if you put too much salt into your bread, it's going to be unedible. So that's another thing where the avatar will be able to look at the scale and tell you, be careful, you have too much salt. I think one of the tryout was to show a bottle of water, and if you need 300 grams of water and you have 500 grams of water into a bottle, the avatar will tell you, be careful, you have too much water. So it's wonderful that you're going to get correction as you cook. And I always say that when a professional cook or bake, professional make mistake. Don't think that professional doesn't make mistake when they cook or bake. We make as much mistake as anyone else, but we see the mistake as they happen, and we correct the recipe to the end result that we want. If you're a non-professional, a lot of them you don't see the mistake, you cannot correct them, and then the result is not what you want. So the good thing about the avatar will be able to tell you, be careful, a mistake is happening, maybe too much water, maybe too much, whatever it is, wrong flour, and then correct you as you're making your recipe to have the end result. So the time that you invest in it is not lost.
That's amazing. And you'll see, like, we're constantly testing, and I think that's one of the things is we're interacting with Jacques digitally, and it's really funny. So back in December, when you were interacting with your digital self, Jacques didn't have arms, so it was very max headroom. It was a prototype, very, very early, and it was funny, the interactions and the jokes that they would give back to each other about digital Jacques, your digital twin, having like always the perfect recipe. What was caramelization used for?
To give color, usually. That's what we caramelize things. I like that this avatar was younger than me, so I really look at myself, a few years ago, and I love that. That was great. I had more hair, that was great. I still have the French accent, which, I will never lose it.
And you'll see the new avatar has hands now.
Now it can move.
So he can move, a little more animated, but in the current stage has lost some humor. And it's great to see how systems are evolving. And, we'll go through a little bit of kind of the slides, like of just the making of, like, what are we really doing with Baker? Like, these anecdotes and these stories are really, we're trying to humanize what people do. How are they cooking? How do we, today people are going to YouTube, and, you do a lot of videos online showing people how to make even whipped cream and other things, right? And it's always that one thing, like, what do you hear from people when you're doing?
I think that people want interaction. When I post recipe, and I post every recipe, every Tuesday I post a recipe on Instagram, and the interaction is actually the question that people will ask. So I go usually through the question and try to understand what they want to know, what I miss, or how can I explain better, or just that go to another question, and the interaction is there. So the interaction is not instant. People have to send a message, and then I have to read them, I have to answer them, can be the day after or 2 days later, or even later than that. So I think it's wonderful if you can get the interaction right away. And then, as you make a recipe, understand what's going on and keep going. I think that's what people will want, the interaction to be open and instant.
That's great. That's great. And what we're really going to show you in kind of the behind the scenes making, and we'll show you a little demo of where we are with Jacques. We're going to be launching Baker in the fall of this year. So we'll have a lot more recipes. It's really been quite an undertaking in the development side, but part of it is thinking through, like, people cook at home, right? They have families, they have kids. Like, how do we make AI and large language models in particular safe? And how do we know they can be trusted to deliver the recipe in the right way? And, we're putting all these really great safeguards. So what we're delivering and building is safe and intelligent agents and digital chefs, right? And it's really, really cool. And we'll show you the tech in a second, but it's a complete orchestra that's happening. So there's multimodal large language models with computer vision, with speech to text, and all these different things that are being orchestrated at once on this in your house. So it's really cool thing to see, and we believe this is a big first step for, we all go to YouTube to watch videos of how to do things, and it would be really cool to not mess it up that first time, have somebody there to correct you in real time, and that's what we're really building. And what you'll see here is there's lots of good social interaction that happens. So it's not just max headroom or a robot. It's really interactive. I did something earlier in our testing where I was like, Jacques, can I add this to the bread? And they're like, oh, don't be silly. You can't put a pencil in bread. So it recognizes every object. And this is a big breakthrough. So even another examples in this development, and people are always like, when you see movies and you see behind the scenes and you see all the CGI, I'm personally always fascinated with that. And as we bring digital Jacques to life, part of what we're seeing is the making of. And the different things that we do is someone was asking, are you ready to, digital Jacques was saying, are you ready for your salt? And they said, yes, here's the salt. And they had a Vietnamese spicy salt. And digital Jacques said, you can't use that spicy salt. That would make this very adventurous recipe. So it's really, really fun, humorous, right? And we're trying to, again, one of the things and challenges and exciting thing of what we're seeing is we're humanizing this. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're really focused on. And Jacques, how are you feeling about you seeing yourself and your digital twin? And I know we're always self-conscious as people, but how are you feeling about?
I love the interaction. I love that I can help to go through a recipe or to create something. But one of the benefits of working with an avatar is that avatar will speak English. So if you go on an app and pick a chef that's, I don't know, in Japan or in Italy, and do something that you are really interested and you want to cook with that person, the good thing is that person will understand what you say. That person will speak English because it's all AI, and will drive you through the recipe in English and correct the recipe that you are making. You can put all your ingredients on the table and ask the avatar, what do you miss? Yeah. And the avatar will look at all the label and quantity and tell you exactly what you miss. The avatar will remind you when things are in the oven or on the stove. Be careful, it's burning. You need to stir a little bit more. The risotto not going to be good, or whatever you are cooking. And I think that's the big difference between having a book in front of you or even a YouTube recipe, than having a real chef looking at you and tell you, what's going on and how to do things. It's very new, and the concept is just amazing to be able to do that this way, and to know that if you have all the ingredients, and if you listen, if you don't fight with your avatar, you should be able to have something for dinner. And I find that wonderful.
That's wonderful. And as you'll see in the image behind me, you see, Jacques and I on stage. This is earlier in December at Tech Basel, and you just see, Jacques, no arms, no hands, right? And here's what we have today with Jacques. Right, we're probably in the final product. We'll have like the waist up, but very, very expressive, very emotional. So there's emotion analytics, there's gesture interpretation that's happening. It's really exciting to see, and in the corrective piece, it's funny, right? And one of the other really great things about Baker is everybody has different levels of skills, right? Because some people, I'm afraid to cook, right? Like, how do I start? So. What are your thoughts on that?
My guess is, depending on what you do, there is a lot of prep. The prep before you're going to do a dish. Before you put carrots into a dish, then you have to cut them a certain way, and it's the same for onions and whatever. So my guess is the avatar will be able to tell you what knife you're going to use a cutting board, the way that you're supposed to position your hands, especially if he has hands. So all those steps are important for the final product. So and that go for a lot of things, a lot of different recipes, and maybe not only cooking, but this is what we do. We are talking about cooking. So the avatar will be able to teach you actually how to cook things, how to prep things, and correct you if you put the wrong wine. If the recipe called for white wine, French, we use wine in every recipe. We love our wine, but sometimes if you use the wrong wine, you can always show the label, and the avatar will tell you, okay, this is great. This is a dry wine, and that's what you want. You don't want a sweet wine into that recipe. So I love that the avatar can read, analyze, and give you the final answer of what you use. A lot of time you go to the wine store and buy something for cooking and buy the wrong wine. So it's important that the avatar can read. So that's also one of the steps that's great. And also take your time. Take your time when you cook. The avatar is there and is there to stay. So why not? So that's another thing where you don't feel really rushed.
That's wonderful. And you'll see, this is, one of the great things about eMERGE is everyone's curious. They want to discover, see something new, right? So what we're showing you today is, we wanted to show you a little bit of the system architecture, because setting goals, goal setting is one of the most important things we think from agentic AI to do. If it's teaching you, it should know where your skill level is and know what skill level you're aspiring to go to. And that's what we're showing here with this system. So you have lots of different users coming in here through an iPad, right? And we have something called reinforcement learning, and it's always learning. And it's going into an audio-video streaming, so it's real-time streaming of video and from your tablet or your phone, your camera in your kitchen, and it's generating a synthetic version of you. And what we're using is something called a multimodal large language model. So it not only has to know the recipes, it has to interact with all the media. And that has to happen in very, very fast, right? With very low latency. And there's this whole application logic really holds the orchestration, if you will. And to orchestrate all these different pieces together is what's very, very special about Baker. And then the final product is this synthetic digital twin of Jacques that's telling you how to do everything. But we're also saving the data and the interactions so that we know what mistakes were made, right? And remind you the next time. Remember this, remember that. So really, think of how we teach people. And Jacques, you've been in culinary schools, and the teaching experience is repetitive in many ways. And that's one of the things that we're trying to embed into this technology, is that repetitiveness, the memory, is another big thing that's very important for us, because we take it for granted.
You're right that if you see a chef using a knife, you're going to see that person working very fast and don't cut any finger on the process. And yes, there is a lot of hours of training, but if you train with the right instructions, things became a lot easier. That's why I was saying earlier, you can take your time. You can, if you have the right instruction, you can take your time to cut something, to chop something, to prep something. And as you will do it, you will learn the right way. And I think that's very important. That's what you learn in cooking school, and it's repetitive. And by doing that with the right instruction, then you become better at it every time. So it's no question that we have to get nourished, we have to cook for ourselves, and that's certainly an easier way to do, and maybe a faster way to learn when you have an avatar telling you exactly, you know, what to do, how to do it. And imagine that you're doing pastry, and you're working with dough, it's flour, it's eggs, and your hands are a mess, and you are looking at a YouTube video, and now you have to freeze that image or going back because you didn't really catch what's going on, and your hands are a mess, and you need to wash your hands, or you're going to mess up your iPad. So again, with an avatar, the avatar will wait, will say it again. So it's a little bit easier because you get the instruction as you go and as you make a mistake, even if your hands are dirty.
That's true. And you'll see like this, like we talked about, to do all of this, right? Like Jacques was saying, like these techniques, like how do you train it? Well, you need these underlying technologies to work together, right? And it has to be relatable. I think that's the number one thing with creating agents today, is it has to be relatable, and not just go to do the task, but do it in a way that can be trusted, that's truly intelligent and relates to us as humans. And this is really what multimodal, and this is one of the really special things we're working on, is taking that visual, the sound, you know, the ability to modify, right? So any techniques or modifications to recipes that you want, it can be truly dynamic and remember what you did before. And if you think of computer vision, we have to recognize everything, like that salt example, right? It read and translated in real time that this was in Vietnamese to English. And it's really incredible to see the scale of all of this technology coming together. And knowing the difference, like we've been trying to trick the system, so we'll say, okay, we're adding sugar or we're adding other things, and it's always coming back and bringing us right back to that recipe. So for folks that want to deviate, it will say, okay, you can be adventurous, and it's really exciting to see. The other thing is like doing text to speech is all, and natural language processing is something like we take for granted. But I don't know about you, if you use an iPhone, Siri has gotten, and its massive growth isn't as accurate as it used to be for me. So speech to text and getting things right, and context and sentiment is so important for bringing all of this together. And then gesture and emotion management and recognition is another big characteristic that's embedded into Baker. And then tailored learning. I think that's the one thing that's really, really incredible. And Jacques, how do you modify recipes?
All the time. My problem is that I will write a recipe, and I have a few books that came out, and every time I'm reading one of my recipe, I change little things. When you know what's happened behind a recipe, when you know the techniques and what's happened behind a recipe, you talk about salt. Salt in bread is usually 25 grams for 1 kilo of flour, but it works between 22 to 27, 28 grams. So you can always, in every ingredient, you can go few percentage up and down, and you can personalize your recipe this way. So I always change recipes or change ingredients. Another interesting things to me with this technology is that you can ask your avatar how much calorie you're going to have in a recipe if it's something that's important to you, and you will have a result right away because your ingredients are here. The avatar will know exactly how much you're going to put in of each ingredient. Calculation of those calorie became very, very easy. Fat content, sugar content, all those things. So that's great. It's easy to work with that.
And that's great. And this is kind of Jacques on a tablet. And Jacques, are you going to help us make some bread today? You'll see Jacques starting to interact and welcoming us here.
Bonjour mes amis, it's me, Jacques Torres, the flawless
So this is like an example of Baker coming live. Live to life on a tablet in your kitchen to really help you make anything you want from a multitude, from the masters. And very, very exciting. And, I think you'll see, there's a resemblance here.
And I think you can, again, the important thing is you can cook with a professional, but you may be able to cook with your mom. You can cook with someone that you love and it's gone. And that's also, to me, invaluable, because now you can have something that bring you back to bring you back in memory. So that's something amazing.
That's great. Well, thank you all for your time, and thank you for listening to what we're doing with Baker, and it's very, very exciting.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Bon appétit.